There is a moment in sport that stops time. Not the goal, not the trophy, the moment just before. When an entire nation holds its breath when a player who grew up with. Nothing stands on the biggest stage in human history and realizes this is real. Morocco, 2022. A country that had never reached a World Cup semifinal, ever, in the history of the tournament, and there they were. Defeating giants, rewriting history, making an entire continent weep with pride. Now here is the question FIFA asked. After that tournament ended, what if that almost never happened? The World Cup has a problem, a quite uncomfortable problem that nobody at FIFA wanted to say out loud for decades. It is exclusive, not in the glamorous sense. In the brutal sense, talented footballers in Africa, Asia, and North and Central America have spent generations watching the world's biggest tournament from their living rooms, not because their football wasn't good enough, but because the door was never wide enough to let them through. 32 teams, that number had been sacred since 1998. Balanced, they said. Competitive, they said. Perfect, FIFA just destroyed it. Starting June 11, 2026, the World Cup becomes something the sport has never seen before. 48 teams, 100 for matches. 3 host nations, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, are spread across 16 stadiums and thousands of miles of North American geography. Qatar 2020 to had 60 for matches. This tournament has 40 more games. The football world reacted exactly how you would expect. Half celebrated, half declared the death of the sport. Both sides believe they are completely right, and both sides have evidence to prove it, but before we get to that, we need to go back further, because this decision happened because of something much older and much darker. Football has always been called the beautiful game, the people's game, the game that belongs to everyone, except it never really did. Since 1930, the tournament has been controlled by a handful of nations. Europe and South America wrote the rules and collected the trophies, but the game kept growing quietly, relentlessly. By 2022, over 270 million people were playing football across Asia alone. Africa had produced generational talents lighting up the Champions League every week, and yet their World Cup allocations barely moved. Africa, the second most populous continent on Earth, had 5 spots, 5 for 50 for nations competing over years of qualification. That is not balance, that is gatekeeping. FIFA's decision to expand to 48 teams changes everything. Africa jumps from 5 spots to 9. Asia from 4.5 to 8.5 for the first time. The World Cup actually reflects where football is being played. FIFA projects 2026 will generate over $11 billion. That money flows back to academies worldwide. 2 coaching programs where kids play on dirt pitches with no boots. Money, when it reaches the right places, builds futures. But here is the uncomfortable question nobody wants to answer. Does it actually reach the right places? FIFA has a history: corruption, investigations, bribery scandals, senior officials arrested at a Zurich hotel in 2015. So when FIFA makes a decision that also generates billions in revenue, cynics have the right to ask, is this about football or money? The honest answer is probably both. Beyond politics, there are genuine sporting concerns. When you add 60 nations, some are not competitive yet. The fear is mismatches, 7-2-0 score lines. Games that feel like exhibitions. Nobody remembers a mismatch. They remember Senegal in 2002, Greece in 2004, Iceland in 2016. Giant killings that shook the world. Add too many small teams and you dilute the threat, you make the tournament feel less dangerous, then there is player welfare. Elite footballers already play 60, sometimes 70 matches per season, and now a longer World Cup on top. Kylian Mbappé turned 27 this year. He has already played more football than most players twice his age. His body is not infinite. At what point does ambition become recklessness? But here is what gets lost when critics dominate this conversation. The same arguments were made in 1982 when the World Cup expanded from 16 to 24 teams. Same words, same fears. Then 1980 gave us Paul or Aussie, Italy, one of the greatest tournaments ever. In 1998, outrage was identical when it expanded to 32 teams, and 1998 gave us Zinedine Zidane, Croatia, a country barely 7 years old. Finishing third, expansion did not kill the magic. It created new magic. And the United States as host is not a minor detail. American sports culture will put the World Cup in front of 330 million people falling in love with football. A generation of American kids grew up watching Messi play in Miami. The 2026 tournament could be the moment football stops being a sport Americans appreciate and starts being a sport Americans obsess over. So here is where we actually are. June 11th, Mexico City. The Estadio Azteca, a stadium that witnessed history in 1970 and 1986, prepares to do it again. Maybe this works exactly as promised. New heroes emerge. A country nobody predicted stands in the final. Maybe the critics are right. Maybe, somewhere between 32 and 48, something essential gets lost. The truth is, we are about to find out together. There is a kid somewhere right now, growing up in a country that has never qualified, watching highlights on a phone, dreaming of standing on that pitch under those lights. Before 2026, that dream had a ceiling. Now it has a little more room. Football has always told us it belongs to everyone. This is the first time the tournament actually tries to mean it, but the kid with the dream, he deserves that chance, and on June 11th, 48 nations will believe they have one.